Good afternoon and welcome back to Capitol Hill Ocean Talk. I am your host, Kate Thompson, coming to you live from the Ronald Reagan Building at Capitol Hill Ocean Week 2017. In recent years, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, or IUU fishing, has grown in scope and significance. In response, a plethora of innovation and technology has been deployed to stop those who rob the ocean of its riches. Surveillance, interdiction, radar, drone, and smartphone-based technologies are among the new platforms currently being developed and used against IUU fishing. Today, we'll explore what we've learned from using data and technology in the fight against IUU fishing and discuss where the biggest challenges lie. We'll also explore some of the most exciting projects that have been conceived and executed to date. Joining us to talk about public and private sector perspectives on combating ocean crime is Cassie Lee, Director of Aerospace at Vulcan Incorporated. With Cassie's help, Vulcan supports innovative approaches to save endangered species, address climate change, and improve ocean health. Also in the studio today is Sam Sankar, Senior Advisor at the Nature Conservancy. Through technological advances, the Nature Conservancy is using computers to monitor fishing boats around the world. I'm also joined by Commander Rula Deischer, Living Marine Resources Officer for the United States Coast Guard. Under Rula's leadership, the Coast Guard aids in fisheries enforcement. Have questions for our guests today? Tweet us your questions with hashtag #CHOW2017 and we will answer them live on the show. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me in the studio today. We're really excited to talk about this important topic. So Cassie, Vulcan is one of our signature sponsors here at Capitol Hill Ocean Week, and your CEO, Bill Hiff, spoke yesterday about the new technology to identify wildlife crimes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Vulcan is so honored to be here with this community of folks who are all doing their part to try to save our oceans. And we were really excited for this to be the first place for our CEO, Bill Hiff, to roll out the concept of a new illegal fishing program that we are working on within Vulcan.
Well, it's great to hear that there's others out there that are passionate about helping the ocean. And Rula, you know, with the Coast Guard, obviously you have a big job, and the ocean's so large and vast and out of sight and out of mind. What is crime like on the high seas, and who's responsible for stopping it?
Well, because the ocean is so large and so vast, I just spent the last 3 years out working in the Western and Central Pacific Ocean. So I'm going to talk specifically to that because that's my region of expertise. It does cover a large swath of ocean, 60%, approximately 60% of the world's tuna stocks are harvested from there yearly. Our domestic fisheries out there go from Honolulu down to American Samoa, out to Guam and the Northern Marianas Islands. What we're seeing for our two major types of vessels out there are purse seine vessels and longline vessels. And what we were seeing out there is misreporting, not reporting catch, or reporting different types of catch. We're seeing unlicensed fishing vessels that are not on any local or international registers out there. And we're also seeing a lot of illegal transshipping where two vessels meet up and we're losing track of what vessels are catching what.
Yeah, well, what exactly is illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing?
Okay.
Why is it a problem? I hate to ask it, but we just want the viewers to get that exactly what it is.
From my notes. So illegal fishing is fishing done in contravention to applicable laws and regulations, and that can be on an international scale or that can be down on a regional scale as well, just whatever area the vessels are fishing in if they're not following the appropriate regulations. Unreported fishing is just how it sounds. Either vessels are not reporting that they're fishing, or they're misreporting where they're fishing or what they're catching. And then unregulated fishing could be as simple as the stocks that they're fishing on. There are just no regulations for that stock, or it can be more complicated as a vessel from a certain flag state. The flag state is not part of the convention that they're fishing in, so that flag state is not allowed to fish in that area, or the vessel is just flying no flag at all, and it's fishing illegally on the high seas.
Gotcha. Well, as a consumer, I go into the grocery store and I have so many choices, from the fresh tank to the frozen fillets that are in the cooler. And when you pick the bag up and look on the back, it always says Vietnam, China, U.S. So why is it important to trace where our seafood comes from?
I think traceability is very important because it ensures you as a consumer have confidence in how that seafood was caught. It protects the fishers, the seafood buyers, and the consumers from any illegal ways, or even like just making sure the the safety of the crew of the vessel and the safety of the catch of the vessel that it was handled properly. And it also provides overall picture. When we're tracing our fish, we're making sure that the fish is caught sustainably, and it provides just an overall global food security for our shared resources.
Well, Cassie, it must take a lot to figure out how to track IUU fishing. There's so many fishing boats in the world. So how do you do that?
Absolutely. The world is a big place, and the ocean is hard to comprehend, as Rula has said. That was a question that was brought to us by Paul Allen, who is the founder of Microsoft and also of Vulcan Inc. And he came to us and he said, okay, this is a global problem. It's something I've seen firsthand. What can we do to stop it? In his genius, he first asked our subject matter experts and philanthropy team to go off and really study and understand the problem and realize that it is a diverse problem that happens on a global scale. And so it's a difficult thing to understand. Separately, he asked the aerospace team to go off and respond to the exact question that you asked. How do you find a boat that doesn't want to be found? So we worked independently for a few months and designed a customizable system that we thought, okay, this is how we could potentially find boats that can be found using a lot of different input data sources, using aerospace assets, both existing and emerging. And we then came together with the philanthropic experts. We came together with our technology team, with our government affairs folks, even with our storytellers from our productions team, and really started to think about how Vulcan could really respond to this problem. And so that's what we've been working on, and Bill was talking about what our specific response is going to be.
Okay, so how do you exactly find a boat that doesn't want to be found?
Every single port in every single country, as I'm sure Rula can attest to, has a very specific set of circumstances, different kinds of fishing. She did a really good job of laying out the differences in the IUU fishing enterprise, and so helping to identify what the actual problem is at each individual port, and then also what we can do, what information we can provide to the law enforcement officials at that port, so that they are empowered to interdict or prosecute. One thing that we're really focused on within the Vulcan system is looking at providing more near real-time data, so that there can be a faster response to the illegal activity that's taking place.
So are Rula or are you guys finding? We have a question from Christina on Facebook Live. How much of an issue is bycatch with IUU fishing?
How much of an issue is bycatch with IUU fishing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you think about it, and you're trying to figure stuff out and pinpoint, hey, they're taking tuna, but they're taking bycatch as well. So is it a big issue?
Well, I think it depends on. I mean, that's I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach that question. I mean, it depends on what the bycatch is and if the bycatch is also a regulated catch or not. So sometimes the bycatch is just something that there's no quota with. So a lot of it depends on what type of gear they're using. Gear such as long lines is pretty specific to what it can catch, although it is able to catch other things, and there are some issues, although it's not bycatch, but you will have some turtle interactions or some whale interactions. That's not bycatch. But like the other vessels like purse seines tend to be less discriminatory, so that could be more of an issue. I hope that answers the question.
Right. So Sam, the Nature Conservancy has also been working with Vulcan on this to monitor fishing boats. Can you tell us a little bit about the program?
Sure. So far we've been talking about the problem of vessels being where they don't belong. Vessels fishing illegally because they're in waters that they're not allowed to be fishing in. There's another problem as well, and that is that a lot of the IUU that happens is actually happening on boats that are legally present in the waters that they're fishing in. The problem is that they're either taking more fish than they're allowed to take, or they're having bycatch problems, or they're taking and keeping turtles or other endangered species, or even finning sharks. So these problems are difficult to identify from far away, and so the traditional solution in wealthy and high-capacity countries is to put observers on the boats. But that's an expensive solution. Putting observers on boats at sea requires trained observers. It requires a lot of commitment from people who might need to be on boats for months at a time. And in many cases, it's just it's impractical. So another approach is electronic monitoring, and typical electronic monitoring involves essentially video security cameras that are put on boats. And the cameras monitor the fishing operations, and then after the fishing is complete and the boat returns to port, human dry observers review that video footage to make sure that the fishing was done according to the regulations. In addition, they sometimes can identify the kinds of fish, the size of the fish that are being caught for management purposes. The problem with that style of electronic monitoring is that it's still expensive. You still need to have people on shore reviewing, and there's still a tremendous amount of data to be looking through. So that's why, in cooperation with Vulcan, we've been using machine learning algorithms to actually review the video and do image recognition on the fish that are being caught to be able to see what species are being caught, how they're being caught, and the methods that are being used. This is a project that's in its infancy, but we've got boats out there that are taking the video, and we have algorithms that we're deploying to review it. The hope is, first, to speed up the process of electronic monitoring so that those dry observers have a much easier task, because we're going to identify the precise events that they need to look at. Eventually, we want to push that computing out to the edge, right to the boat, so that the analysis is being done on board the boat and then being beamed up in real time to satellites, so that fisheries managers and enforcement agents can review the activity in real time.
What about crowdsourcing? It's a buzzword now. You hear crowdsourcing for everything. So how are you using crowdsourcing to help fight IUU?
The Nature Conservancy has 3,500 very talented folks around the world, but not many of them are machine learning technology experts. So when you want to get into something like this, you can get the help of people like the folks at Vulcan, but you also need to engage the larger global community. And in this case, what we did was we used Kaggle, a company that runs crowdsourcing, that crowdsources machine learning algorithms. We put up a prize with Vulcan's support, and with that prize, we got 2,000 entrants who submitted algorithms and code to review our video. It was really incredible.
That's cool.
It blew away our expectations. Some of the winning entrants came from as far away as Lithuania. And now we're able to take that code, and again, with Vulcan's help, we're converting that code into actual usable programs that we're going to be using to review that video. It's just an example of how, if you want to keep on the leading edge of technology, you very rarely are organizations like the Coast Guard or the Nature Conservancy going to be able to stay at that bleeding edge without help from the global community.
Right, right. And it's almost as there's the citizen scientists that are helping you to catch the bad guy, almost. It's a really neat story.
One of the things that's great is with the crowdsourcing approach, we've had interest from a whole lot of folks who we never even expected. We've had companies approach us and say, hey, look, we looked at that project, and we think you're going about this in a way that we can help you with. We've got a product that can make this easier for you, and maybe you can go down a different path. And that's been hugely gratifying. It's a great project.
Cassie, what's some of the types of different illegal fishing that we see out there?
So, illegal fishing is really unique to the place where it's taking place. I mean, we talked about the difference between the IU and U, but I think that varies. And I think, Sam really started talking about, maybe a boat is where it's not supposed to be, and that's a pretty straightforward type. There are also fishermen that are out there, and they're mixing together legally caught catch with illegally caught catch, which really makes the traceability that Rula was talking about really difficult. Another issue that is really been on the forefront of our minds at Vulcan is looking at illegal fishing really as a broader way of executing transnational crime, where gives you a network and an opportunity to do things like moving drugs and guns and potentially even humans through a criminal network and enterprise. And so, one of the things that we do at Vulcan, we have a Vulcan Productions, which has put together a really wonderful package with Animal Planet, and it's a 6-part series called Ocean Warriors. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely encourage. Yeah. But what it looks at all the different implications, and certainly doesn't cover them all, but breaks down different stories within illegal fishing and how not only impacts these countries and their economics, but then also things in their safety, and also personal safety. And I think it also does a good job of tying it back to the consumer. I mean, I think something that all conservationists struggle with is getting people to care about these issues every day, and you have to make that connection back in their life. And so I think this piece really does a good job of telling that whole story as well.
Yeah. Well, Rula, what do what role do enforcement agencies like the U.S. Coast Guard play in combating illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing?
So we are one piece of a larger enforcement effort. The Coast Guard will put cutters, we'll put boarding teams out on Navy assets. We go out and we inspect the vessels on the fishing grounds to ensure that they're facing applicable, they're meeting all applicable regulations and laws. We depend highly upon other government agencies and non-government organizations, partnerships with technology companies and the general public to, to do the full piece. But we are the at-sea enforcement piece of that.
Well, I'd like to ask each of you about what you would like to see future technologies to make our ocean safer. So I'm going to just go ahead and start with you, Cassie.
Certainly. So in addition to Sam's work, we're funding other technology development projects outside of Vulcan, but within Vulcan, we're really looking at things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to bring in as much data as we possibly can and then make sense of it in the shortest turnaround time possible to empower enforcement, as I said, but also look towards predictive analytics. Is there something that we can see coming so that we can further empower enforcement to try to cut things off at the source? Of course, as the director of aerospace, I'm always thinking about satellite technology. So we've got existing satellites that are up now in electrical optical imaging and synthetic aperture radar. And then there's some exciting things that are emerging and coming on to the community that I think will be not designed for this application, but really will be able to help make a difference.
Right. There was a shot that we had found of the ocean at night, or the globe at night, and that shot of where all the boats are that are in illegal areas.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I'm like, wow, the ocean's lit up.
Yeah, it's amazing
scary.
what you can see, and I think that's an excellent example of technologies that weren't designed to solve this problem. It's up to us to find unique applications of the technology that's flying now, and whether through a previously unthought of application or through analytics and ingesting different kinds of data sources, we can hopefully help people understand what's happening in their ocean.
Sam, how about you?
Well, I would love to see the technology that we're working on right now mature and be taken up by the private sector. There's a real market for these kinds of enforcement capacities, and I'd love to see the funding come from enforcement agencies and from the fishing industry itself to really monitor this stuff. Costs are going to come down very quickly as the technology matures on the artificial intelligence and machine learning front. And the next step is going to be satellite connectivity. To go to your point, we're going to need to be able to move the data from the boats at sea back to shore faster and more accurately, and that's going to require improved satellite communications technology. The last thing that we're not currently working on, but that I think would be a game changer, is improved technologies for tracing fish. There's microbiome sensing and fingerprinting that can allow you to figure out where fish were caught and how they were caught, even well after they were harvested.
Yeah, we had somebody on last year. Actually, he was on a panel earlier today, Scott Hickman. I Find a Fish or something like that, where they actually number the fish and have the tag in it and trace it back to you can go online and look where your exact fish that was on your plate was from in the Gulf of Mexico. I was like, this is amazing. Just amazing. So, Rula, how about you?
I would say due to the almost infinite size of the ocean and the very finite number of resources that we have, airplanes and ships, any technology that can help us determine the good guys from the bad guys makes us more effective and more efficient in our enforcement. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys have down the road.
Yeah, look forward to hearing about all the new technologies that are just going to be speedlight fast throughout the years. It'll just get more and more impressive, I'm sure. And thank you, Cassie and Vulcan, for sponsoring Capitol Hill Ocean Week again. We really appreciate it, and all the amazing work that Vulcan does to, whether it's producing documentaries, to the technology itself and your work in aerospace and satellite stuff. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's our pleasure.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining me today to learn about how data and technology can help ensure sustainable fisheries. At 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we return to the Capitol Ocean Week with a congressional roundtable about our nation's marine policies. I also want to extend a special thank you to our signature sponsors, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Vulcan Incorporated, and the Walton Family Foundation, and our co-host sponsors, the Campbell Foundation, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, and the Ocean Foundation. Without their support, the success and accessibility of Capitol Hill Ocean Week would not be possible. That's all for Capitol Hill Ocean Talk today. Don't forget to tune in to marinesanctuary.org/OceansLIVE tomorrow for the final day of Capitol Hill Ocean Week 2017.